What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show. See, the home of Epic Conversations up there in the corner, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also host the only online show in the world for dads and fathers that's sponsored by Dove Men Care. It's also co-sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization. And with the collaboration with those two organizations, I've been able to, privileged-wise, reach out directly or indirectly to over 75,000 fathers around the world this year. And I also am the board chair for the Global Food and Drink Initiative, which is a multimedia not-for-profit that showcases Blacks in the diaspora that are doing their thing in food, drink, and travel. As always, you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. And you know, I love bringing new friends to the Dr. Vibe show platform so you get to know them a little bit better. Well, we have another wonderful friend tonight. Let me give you a little bit of a background. And if you don't think she's special, I don't know where you're coming from. So let's start with the background. With 34 years of experience as a professional speaker and trainer, Jen Buck's strength and conviction on the platform have earned her standing ovations and rave reviews. I'm one of them. Around the world. She began her career in banking and finance world, working for Discover Card when it was a startup, and then spent 10 years as a leader in a training role where she honed her craft in leadership and employee development. She has spoken to countless numbers of people throughout her 24-year professional speaking career and has delivered keynotes and workshops in front of audience ranging from 10 to 25,000 people. I think one day she's got to do 50. 20, that's too low for her, but that's another conversation. She focuses on leadership and management and is committed to helping teams thrive in an equitable, supportive, and uplifting environment. She has written 6 books and is a certified professional coach who helps people increase their potential so that they can achieve higher levels of success. She has trained and coached 4-star generals. Did I tell you? The high-level executives at Coca-Cola and Walmart. Did I tell you? And even an Emmy-nominated actress. Anything like I'm going to read on. What could stop right here? But I want to give her full flowers. The demand for her knowledge and perspective is very broad. She has recently started an online learning academy for high-performing women and tries to be the driving force of information and development for women who are leading organizations. She's a founder and director of a nonprofit organization that helps families in need in Phoenix, Arizona. She has founded several nonprofit organizations and community action groups over the years, including a disaster recovery coalition that provided aid on ground after the Shawnee tornadoes in Oklahoma, as well as a home for at-risk girls in Uganda. Finally, Jen also works in politics as a chief of staff for U.S. congressional and senatorial candidates and is committed to inspiring change and being an active contributor to the political landscape. Folks, was that an intro or was that an intro? Like, man, I need to get no, I'm staying here. I am very humbled and privileged to welcome to the Dr. Vibe stage, Ms. Jen Buck.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. My gosh, thank you for that.
You're very welcome. You're very, very welcome. How you doing today?
I'm so good. I had a great day and I'm all motivated and excited for you. So life is good.
Yeah. And people are going to say, have we spoken before? Yes, we have. And we will continue after this too. But we met on Wisdom, the Wisdom.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
And I said, I want to reach out to this special person. And we then had a conversation like this offline, and wow. And she was so wonderful and great. So there's something I shared from my heart that I wanted her to watch, and she would just zoned in on it. And I was so humble in that. And I sent her a copy of it. And I told her, if she needs help in that area, I will serve.
Yes, you did. And do you know that one of my clients, I shared what you shared with me with her, and she signed up for as long as course. Yeah.
Well, after we finish, I'd like to know her name, because because I'm speaking with that individual tonight. I'm sending it like he's my personal mentor.
Yes.
Oh, we'll just put it out there. Mary Armstrong. He's my personal mentor. And we don't go more than 2 days without talking, or I'll at least every 2 days either send him a message or send him a video message. So I'd love to get that person's name, because that is amazing.
The power of connection, right?
Power of relationships. And I want to make sure you glean some of that to our audience during our conversation this evening. Sure. Well, you're already a friend, but you're a new friend to all the audience out there. Yeah. If you can, most of the time when we have new friends come on, give a little bit of your backstory, life growing up. How were things? Was it easy? Was it tough? Education? Wherever you want to start, we'll go with you.
Cool. Well, I grew up in Southern California, born and raised, and the family is mostly all still there. I'm in Arizona now, but
sure.
What was kind of interesting and unique about the way that I grew up is that I'm the only girl with 7 boys in the family. And this is my mom.
Hold on. How did you survive that?
Right. And that, people ask me all the time, like, how do you do all this stuff? I have been running since I was out of the womb. There were 7 boys, and keep in mind, I'm at the bottom of the pack. So I know. So it kind of answers all the things about me, right? In a way, when you think about what I do and what I've done and all of that, it kind of there. And so great upbringing. Parents, not that this matters, but it all matters. My parents were divorced by the time I was 2 and remarried right around when I was 4. So I had 4 parents growing up, and all of these parents co-parented, and they were the best example of 4 adults getting along for all the right reasons, showing up for every event. And now I'm a step parent, and it's the way that I step parent, with her mom and stepdad, and understanding that we've got a bigger goal here, and the backstory doesn't matter. We all just have to love each other so we can love this kid the best way we can, And so that was my upbringing. And then I went on to, this is kind of a funny one. I think you'll like this. I was very, very outgoing as a kid. And as it turns out, I was never super studious enough. I was a B and C kid. And I remember that my junior year, the college counselor that was sort of assigned to our school told me that I should choose a job that didn't require college, because I wouldn't be able to make it in that arena. And I think that after going to college and all of the things I've done since, you talked about the startup and all the other stuff, I think somewhere back in that little kid's brain, I'm still sort of proving to that counselor when I was a junior in high school, like, yes, I can, I can too, if I want to do it. So I've just always kind of been that kid since I was little, and I'm still that way. If something interests me, I jump all in, and I figure, why not me?
Okay, we could just land right there on what you shared. So folks, don't be surprised if there's a part 2. And I'm already going to ask Jen, I've already told her, whenever she has time to share something that's on her heart, she has a home here.
Oh, yeah, you did.
So I'm speaking, this is not going to be a one and done conversation.
Cool.
Having 2 sets of parents, many a time when I have conversations like this on the platform, I'll ask, how did your parents impact you, or your parent impact you? But how did your 4 parents impact you? Because you said in the parenting you do today, but how has that environment shaped and molded your journey?
Yeah, it was everything. I want to say this carefully because I love my mother and my father, my birth parents, and we have a beautiful relationship. But I want to say this real carefully, because the next words that come out of my mouth almost make it seem like maybe I don't have that relationship with my real parents. It's wonderful. I promise. The paternal and maternal lines here are really strong. But my stepmom and my stepdad were truly, truly, truly my soulmates. They were the ones that loved me, and they didn't have to. They gave me everything, including 100% of their heart. I was their child, period. When I was introduced, it was never stepdaughter.
Right.
It was never about lineage, when people tried to say something that would almost minimize the relationship, it was my parents that came in and would fight and say, this is my kid, you know? So there was a beautiful gift that was given. And I now understand as a step parent that my daughter didn't come out of me, but she came through me. I mean, this kid has captured my heart, and I feel like it's history repeating itself, you know, because I mean, we went on vacation together, all the parents. Like that's how, yeah. That's
Do you have any pictures of that?
Oh yes. We went on a cruise. I do.
That I know you do a lot of sharing with people all around the world. Have you ever got into conversations, whether it's an audience of one or audience of thousands, of the whole step being raised by step parents and you being one yourself? Because that's so unique.
Yeah.
There's a conversation there.
And I'll be honest with you, probably not enough. I definitely do with people in a one-on-one, you know, relationship type of conversation, but I don't speak about that from stage. And I don't, now that you're saying this, I don't know why, because I know that it is foundationally everything that, you know, I am, and everything that comes through me is because of that. And so I'm realizing I definitely should be, but I don't do it from stage.
It's interesting. And folks, when we talk, when we share with each other offline, this is the way we roll. Like things come to our mind going, yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's when I share with Jen, whether it's live or offline, it's like I'm sitting on a park bench, we're just kicking it back.
Yeah, truly.
You know, that's wonderful. So you weren't the educational type. How did you get into the world of business?
Well, so when I went to college, I did go right out of high school, and I was not doing well. Again, way too much of a social butterfly. And I experienced like Greek life and 5-cent beers way too early on. So I was a kid like in a candy store, like this is the greatest thing ever. And I'll never forget, it was my mom who at the end of my first semester, like this is how bad it was. It was first semester. She told me that she bought tickets to a women's conference. Now, we're all real familiar with women's conferences now, but at the time it was brand new. And they were put on by the governor's wife per state in this particular year. It was kind of a thing in California that the governor's wife put it on. And so I remember kicking and screaming and saying to my mom, I'm not going. I'm not going. You know, we were going to Los Angeles, and I didn't, you know, I lived in a suburb. I didn't want to be around all these like hoity-toity women that were really accomplished. And like, I'm in 501 jeans and Birkenstocks, you know, like I'm not there. I'm a freshman. And I said to my mom, I can't go because I said, I have school. And she finally laid it on me. And she was like, look, I know exactly what you're doing. I know you're not going to school. I know you've been sleeping in and missing your morning classes. I know you're drinking at night. You're going. And I was like, oh. Wow. So I went, and this is actually incredibly cool because this was the lightning bolt moment. Like, this is it. This is the before and after moment, was that I was sitting there refusing to dress up because I was, again, feeling like I was being forced to go to this thing. And there were 3,500 women there. And it was at the Long Beach Convention Center. And I remember they had plated food that they would bring to you and pull off the top, you know, like the old days of being served, like, remember on planes or whatever, they would pull it off. So we were all getting this big breakfast of eggs and bacon and sausage and pancakes. And then the keynote speaker started. And she was up there doing her thing. And I was still kind of scowly, you know, not really loving it at all. And I finally looked at my mom as the keynote speaker is speaking. And I said to her, who is the old broad? Because people were laughing, right? And my mom was like, oh, Jennifer. She said, that's Joan Rivers.
Oh my.
And I didn't know who Joan Rivers was, because this was kind of like a down slope in her career at that point.
Yeah.
She had been, I guess she'd had a couple of talk shows like daytime and nighttime that had failed. And so once I realized that apparently this was someone big, I sort of started paying attention. And this is the moment that I found myself holding my breath during some of her stories, and my eyes would fill with tears. And then I'd laugh so hard that my face would hurt and I'd have tears running down my face. And I literally caught the wave. And this woman was up there telling this life story. And I remember when she was done, I had my first standing ovation, meaning I sprung out of my seat. I'd never given a standing ovation. I'd seen people stand up, and as a kid, you just kind of stand up because everybody else is standing up, you know? And it was my first, like, I can't control myself, tears streaming down my face and clapping as loud as I could and screaming and yelling. And it was the moment. It was the moment. And I remember there was like this expo where you could go and talk to all of these different companies and walk around the convention center. And after we did that, my mom and I were like walking down these humongous stairs at the Long Beach Convention Center. And she said to me, "Well, Jen, did you decide what you're going to be when you grow up?" And I remember
right there.
I did this, hands on hips, the full thing. And I was kind of hopping down the stairs before because I was loving it, right? And I remember stopping on the stairs and turning around and saying to her, "I'm going to be a motivational speaker." And my mom was deadpanned and looked at me and said, "No, I mean for a job. What are you going to be?"
Yep.
And here I am.
Wow.
So that was sort of the catapult. So I kept going to school and eventually got offered a job because I was a waitress at Chili's. And I got offered a job by a couple who used to come in all the time. And I was a bar waitress because I talk too much. So food's always cold and late. So, and you just keep plying them with drinks and nobody cares, right? So truth. Yeah, truth. So I remember that this couple used to always come in, and they always ask, like, "What are you doing? You know, what are you studying in school?" And I would say, "I'm going to be a motivational speaker." And one of these times the woman came in and said she had gotten a job working for a startup. It was a brand new company that no one had ever heard of before called Discover Card. And they were looking for trainers. And she said, "I know it's not a motivational speaker and you can't see it right now, but this is the path. Do you want to interview?" And I was like, "Sure." Like, I didn't even care. Sure. I asked my parents, they said, "No, you're a college student. You've got to finish your degree." And I said, "Please, please, 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 please." They said, "All right, for 1 year." So I went to the interview and I got it. And I stayed for 10 years.
When you, so a few questions about an incredible story, by the way. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
What do you remember your reaction when they told you got the job?
100%. 100%. The woman, so I have to set, this is me, I'm talkative. So
no problem. Hey, storytelling, please.
Totally. I got to give you the full setting. So obviously I'm a hair person, right? And
I am too.
Yeah. Okay. So at the time, I want you to know this was 1989. Okay. So I was totally into like the hairband scene, like big, huge hair, like all the things like White Snake and all these crazy things. So I had the hair and sort of the style that went along with that. And I remember when I went to the interview, I wore the shortest skirt. I had the tallest pumps you have ever seen with white hose. I did. Who wears hose, number one, and who wears white ones? I did. And then I had a jacket that had diamond cutouts so you could see my skin.
Okay. Hold on a second. Your mother let you out of the house for this interview?
She didn't know.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to make sure. I thought so, but I wanted confirmation. Okay.
She never would have let me. She never would have allowed me to go to, but I figured I am all up in myself and, I'm just going to do it. My dad had kind of prepped me the night before saying, "Listen, you can talk to anyone. You can engage with anyone. You're fearless. Just do it and just let them know you don't have your education done yet, but you're going to school and you're going to finish your degree but you've got all this exuberance. Like you're a good, fast learner and a good person and all that." So I was ready and I was in all my glory. And I remember the woman was so easy to talk to. She was so great. I did the whole thing that my dad and I had planned, right? And this interview went on for like 2 hours. So I knew that when I walked out, I felt like it was like there was a moment we connected and I'd never gone through that. And 2 weeks later, because apparently they had like some kind of big meeting out of state, 2 weeks later, she called me and offered me the job. And I said, "No way. no way, because I was so young at the time that
Yeah.
life had moved on. This is 2 weeks. Like I was already at the next concert or, next cake party, And I just remember saying to her, no way. And when I've stayed very close with her over the years because again, kind of like that moment at the women's conference, this was pivotal. This changed my life,
Yeah.
this job. And I have asked her since then. We meet for, well, pre-COVID, we would have lunch once a month. And I asked her one
Wonderful.
time, yeah. And I asked her one time, I said, what in the world were you thinking? Because we were talking about my getup, like what I actually wore in and that she was laughing at the whole thing, all of that.
Would love to see that picture.
I
Go
know.
on.
It does not exist, and I would not show you.
If it existed, I'd work you. I'd work you.
So the answer she gave me, though, was so fabulous because I said to her, what were you thinking? Hiring a kid who was 19 years old, with no education into a startup, for goodness sakes, And she said to me, the truth is, she said, I saw myself in you. She said, when I got out of college, it took me years and years and years for anyone to give me a chance in leadership. And I knew when I met you and you had all this energy and all this confidence, she said, I knew I just had to do it because no one did it for me. And that woman for 10 years was literally my sponsor throughout every level. And I stayed in training throughout my whole career, but it was just going from one level in one office to another state and, over into this area of training. And it was always because that woman sponsored me all the way through. Yeah.
Well, folks, if you don't know what the power of storytelling is, you just heard it.
No.
That's fantastic. What memories, because it sounds like you have a very good memory. What are some of the memories you have of the Discovery Card days?
See,
like,
wow. That's what I did at the time. I was, when the woman came to the restaurant, I remember she said she worked for Discover Card. And I said, Discovery Card? Because all we had was the Discovery Channel, right? So I was like, Discovery Card? She was like, no, Discover Card. And I remember every time I'd walk into these different merchants, because my job was to train like shop owners, stores, whatever, to use the little box to take sales and send their batch and do returns and all that. My job was point of sales training when I started. Right. And I remember just realizing that this is a different world. Like I was a kid before I started. And when I started, I still felt like a kid, but suddenly I was around the kind of money that gets thrown at startups, which is unbelievable. The kind of whining and dining that happens to make sure that people stay high energy because startups are crazy, right?
Yeah.
And so I was groomed in an extraordinary time where there were hundreds of millions of dollars being thrown at this credit card to make sure that it went. And we were the recipients of that. I mean, we were on yachts. We were staying in beachfront resorts. We were eating, $1,000. It was, and I think about this, I'm a kid, but I'm having to look like an adult and I'm having to work in this environment. So I feel like I was sort of groomed, and I got this really extraordinary pedigree really early on. And that optimism and that belief and that ability to pivot and go with it and find change exciting was literally bred into me. And it's still who I am now. It's really an incredible thing when I think about how that changed my life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, folks, if you're watching this live or watching the replay or you're listening to the replay, there's already going to be a part 2 because there ain't going to be enough time to get through. There's like a 3-4 part series going on here because that alone is absolutely fabulous. It sounded like it was a great experience. I guess you had many moments saying like, what am I doing here? like what? How? Why me? I'm sure you had one or two of those moments.
Well, I think I was so caught up in how exciting that kind of environment is. I was there 10 years, 9 years and 6 months. And or 9 years and 8 months. Not that matters at all, but I'm a memory person. So there you have it.
Yes.
So I think that there were lots of opportunities and job openings that would have brought me into more money and maybe more travel or whatever it might have been. And I thought about, totally letting go of this idea, because I still told everybody I'm going to be a motivational speaker. And I would go for these job interviews. And I remember that I would pretty consistently, I say consistently, 3 of them, I would not get the job. And I'd be devastated. And every time they would tell me the same thing, because at this particular company, they would do these sort of post-interview moments if you wanted them. If you wanted to sit down for 15 minutes, you could schedule that. And I would, because I was new to all this. And I was like, any information is good. So every one of them said the same thing to me, which was, you want to be a motivational speaker. If you get this sales job, if you get this job over here, if you get this, account representative job, you're going to lose your path.
Wow.
And I never realized how at the time, because I was like, dang it, I failed, right?
Yeah.
But I never realized until much later what a gift that was. That these people, these adults, because I was always the kid anyway, no matter whether I was 19 or 28 when I left, I was still the kid, right? And yet these people, these incredible mentors and leaders that I was exposed to, they kept me on track throughout my whole career. I mean, it was start and end, the same path. And literally the day I got the call from a boyfriend saying, open the newspaper, they're looking for speakers on the women's conference, I was still on that path. Like it was all this perfect line all the way through.
When did you realize it was time to leave the Discover card? Was it difficult?
Very. But so I say this, sort of of two minds here, because that was my family. I loved these people. And when you're training and leading and doing all the things through development and coaching, you really establish an incredible relationship. And I was at a center that had between 4,000 and 5,000 people at any given time.
Wow.
And yeah. And so as the person who they had developed the heck out of, I mean, I can tell you that by the time I left there, I was certified to train over 150 courses. And I had 3.
Jen, did you sleep? Did you sleep?
Well, this is over 10 years, right? And
but
so
still, that's a lot. That's still a lot.
That's the kind of investment that they put into me. And that's what I'm getting at, right? Yeah. That it changed my life. I could never have afforded to have 150 different courses that I was certified to train and 3 different coaching certifications, 3 levels, 3 totally different types. I could never have afforded that. And they changed my life. So the question is, was I sad to leave? Yes, for all of the obvious reasons, but I was so excited, to actually be stepping into my lifelong dream, because that's what happened. I left there, and I remember the very last day, I was gathering all my stuff, and I had this box of, putting like my knickknacks on the desk and whatever. And I remember, stopping by at people's desks and, crying and goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. And I remember there was this long hallway and then a second long hallway that took you to the front door. And this is a huge, huge operations center. And I remember as I'm walking, all of a sudden over the loudspeaker for the entire operations center, I hear, "May I have your attention, please? Jen Buck is leaving the building." And thousands of heads started to pop up out of we were in cubicles, right?
Cubicles, yeah.
And as I went down the hall, heads, people coming out of offices. I was a mess. It was the longest walk of my life, but the most meaningful one, because it was such a good chapter of my life. And I loved every second of it. It was hard. And it was, challenging like anything else, but it was so wonderful. So that was the send-off to then step into professional speaking.
What was the first big moment in your professional speaking career?
First big moment was when I was offered the role on the women's conference. Wow. So when I was working at Discover Card, I called in sick, and there was an ad in the paper that they were looking for a speaker for the National Women's Conference. And I went and I auditioned. I tripped on stage. I was sure they were, of course, right? Like, this is the moment, of course. Isn't that just so totally life going, you are still Jenny Buck. Like, you are not too big for your own britches, little girl. And so, yeah, I tripped on stage when they called me on. There were hundreds of speakers that were also auditioning in the audience. I mean, it was horrifying. I'm sure everybody was like, count her out. She's not getting it. But I got hired, and they put me on the women's conference. And the very first women's conference that I did, I mean, it was lightning. I mean, it was surreal. It was out of body. And I knew it was exactly where I belonged. I stepped on that stage to the roar, and I was like, Joan Rivers, like, here it is.
Yes.
There it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is phenomenal. You have shared with so many different organizations.
Yeah.
It's been, can you give me one? We already had the trip on stage experience.
Yeah.
But can you give me one or two experiences when you shared from a stage that you have never forgotten?
Well, you mentioned one, which was the 4 and 5 star.
Yeah, how did okay, drop that story, please. Let's hear that one, because I've never had anyone on this platform that has like 4 or 5 star general. Like, come on now.
Yeah. So I knew that the Department of Defense was hiring me, and they wanted me to give presentation skills.
Hold on. I want to interrupt. How did they find out about you? You said they were hiring, but how did that happen? Like, you can't just jump into that and say, oh, they hired.
Yeah. Well, over the years, I have used these different speakers bureaus. I should say I have been privileged to be represented by speakers bureaus. Speakers bureaus are the most important thing that we do in this industry, those relationships. And so I had a bureau who needed a speaker to go, and that was the client. And so I knew, here's the deal. I knew I was going to be speaking to high-level professionals, but I didn't know that they were going to be generals until I arrived. So we do a certain level of like prep beforehand.
Right. Yeah, of course.
And no one mentioned that part. I swear it's because they didn't want me to get freaked out. And I remember when I arrived, you have to go through the full background check just to even get there. You have to go through this whole rigmarole when you get on premise, and it's a big deal.
Of course.
So when I finally got escorted up to the woman who had hired me, she then dropped it on me, and I was like, what? Like, my family is military. I don't know that I would have taken this had I known that. Like, it's so much pressure that I was scared to death. And she said to me, I know you've heard this before about people putting their pants on the same way and all of that, but I'm going to tell you who they really are. They're your uncle. Every one of them are your crazy uncle. I guarantee you, I know every one of them. You're going to be fine. You just have to see them as the crazy uncle in your family. And I was like, oh my gosh, how am I even supposed to do this? So it was all that. I went in, crazy uncle, crazy uncle, crazy uncle is all I could think of. And I started poking at them. And I mean, physically poking at them immediately, like being playful, being silly, absolutely not acknowledging that I've got 4 and 5 star generals in the room with me, not acknowledging their level, not acknowledging their expertise, not acknowledging, just treating them like they're my crazy uncle.
Regular human beings. Yep.
Totally.
Yep.
And let me tell you, it was a 3-day course. And the last day, what we do is we actually film them giving presentations. So then I have to critique them. But by that time, I was so close to these guys. And I remember, I'll never forget one of them. We were walking in from break together, and he made some kind of comment and kind of looked at me and winked at me. And you know, when you were a kid and you would.
Still am.
Yes. So you know what I'm going to say. When you kind of kick someone on their butt, but you do it as you're walking next to them, and you kind of whack them, right? You kind of twist your knee and you do it.
Yes.
And I did that to him. And he busted out laughing. And that was day 1. And that was it. Like that, I was in because I was just being obviously smart and capable and all of that. However, I was also being really normal and treating them normally. And it allowed all of them to just chill out and have fun. And to this day, it's one of my favorite memories of speaking. And I was probably 32 or 33 at the time. And so can you imagine what they must have thought with a 32 or 33-year-old walking in? They must have been like, or maybe 35 max. But still. Yeah. So that was cool. Another cool one was when I had a really long stint with Walmart. And Walmart is a really interesting place because they are fully bought in to the culture. And so I would go out to Bentonville, which is where their headquarters is.
Yeah.
And I would work with all of their sort of global leaders. And they have these meetings, a chant, a prayer, all of it. First thing in the morning, everybody comes in, like all department heads, and they do this chant. When I say chant, I mean like ho, 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 ha, 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 ha. Like they've got movements, they've got a song, they've got noises they make. And I was like, oh my God, what is happening the first time? By the end, I was like, ho, 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 like totally in. But that was after months and months and months and months of working with them. But they are so 100% in. And so when people put down Walmart and all of that, look, I get it. But when I got a chance to peek inside of what's really going on in Walmart, I know why they are the global leader. I get it. I fully get it.
Wow. Folks, I'm going to just do something quick here. I'm actually going to put up Jen's website because you're probably saying, yeah, she spoke to one or two companies. No, she's the real deal, folks. She is the real deal. She is absolutely amazing. So I'm just going to put up her website. There we go. I'm going to put down, there's her website. Great pictures. And yes, that's Jen.
I know. Blonde, brown hair now. This is natural. COVID, no more.
Yeah, there you go. And, she does a podcast. As I said, we're going to do a part 2 because we're not going to get through everything tonight. That's just a known thing. Well, I'll leave video over there and some of the organizations that she's had positive impact on. Some, okay? Then rolling down, of course, you see all these organizations, top organizations in their field, right? So, this is fabulous stuff. Testimonials, books. I don't know if we're going to get to the books because I can't say, who knows if we're going to get to the books tonight, and blog and all this stuff. So as you see, there's going to be more than one part. Since you were talking about Walmart and you've been doing this journey for over a long time, how has corporate culture changed, in your opinion, during your journey?
I think for the better. I used to get asked to do, and what I do is I work with high performing leaders. So that might be virtually, that's a director and above, right? So we're talking about high level people who've got a lot of experience behind them. And so usually when I'm asked to go in and do trainings, coaching, that kind of thing, it's usually I would say an employee sort of retreat is probably the best way to say it. So I used to see people getting treated very well and all of that, but that was the high level executives. I've been to some marvelous places, let me tell you, and that I never would have gone to myself. And it's all because I'm part of this retreat. But what I would see when I would train their employees was not nearly the same level of employee sort of recognition or employee value. And what I've noticed over the last, I'd say 5 years for sure, but maybe even stretching it back 10, is that employees are getting it. They're getting that companies are getting it, that employees are what matter most. And those frontline employees are the people who are keeping the organization afloat. So I'm watching a lot of the companies that I've worked with really start to evolve and put money, big money, good money into making sure that the employee feels valued when they're at work. I used to do a lot of work with, oh my gosh, why can't I think of the name of it? It sounds like the name of a shoe company. And they literally 10 years in a row got the best place to work in America, 10 years in a row. And it'll come to me as I'm talking about it, but for some reason it's not right now. But I would go to their campus and I'd go several times a year, usually 4 or 5 times a year. And when you get on this campus, they had a school for the employees' kids, a hotel for the employees' families, high-end hotel. They'd have an Olympic rated gym and required every employee to work out for 1 hour, or I should say not required, but allowed every employee to work out 1 hour during their 8-hour shift. So virtually you work 7 hours, get paid whatever. And the amenities they had, from dental and medical on site to dry cleaning, car service, the grounds were beautiful. You'd always see people out there throwing the football or playing, some kind of great game out on the grounds.
Sure.
What they gave, and all food was free when you were on site. I mean, it was unbelievable, mind-boggling. Free while you're working, you get free food. And what the owner of this organization, and I want to say I got it, SAS, S-A-S.
Yes.
Dr. Goodnight is his name, and he might even be just the CEO, or I'm not even sure if he's still working. Honestly, it's been several years since I've been there, but what he would do every day is he would stand at the gates to the campus, and he would wave as people came in, good morning, saying hello to cars for an hour in the morning. And in the evening at 5 o'clock, he'd go out there and say goodbye.
Wow.
Yeah. And he was quoted as saying, he was quoted as saying that he realized one day that every single day, all of his success rolls out of the parking lot at 5 o'clock. And there is no guarantee that those doors will open again at 8 o'clock unless his employees feel valued. And from that, and from his example, I think that people are getting it. We're starting to see, I know Discover Card, for instance, got the greatest place to work in America some years back, maybe 3 or 4 years back.
Yeah.
But I go into companies now and they have playrooms that have games, toys, koosh balls.
It's interesting. Many years, and I tell people this, many years ago, when I had hair, I worked for Adidas Canada.
Yeah.
And they had a workout facility on campus. They had a basketball court on campus. A very interesting story. Very, very quick. The gentleman who was president at the time, why am I forgetting his name now? But incredible guy, because when I joined the company, he had already ran in the Boston Marathon. And he would work out every day. And one night I was working out. He came in and he started to do the stuff on the treadmill. So I had finished. I was in there in the change room, and he came up beside me. And it was a really interesting story. And he said, I'm going to give you some words of wisdom. And I go, okay. And he said, if you ever find a better opportunity in your career, make sure you go for it. I'm going, you want me to leave? Like, what are you talking about? Right? Yeah. But he said, you know what? If I left Adidas today, Adidas Canada, it would still run. And funny enough, a few months after that, Tom Wright, that's his name. One incredible guy, incredible leader. About 6 months after that, he went to become president of Adidas USA. And he came back after 7 months. And when I met him, I said, like, why are you back? He says, I miss my family too much.
Oh.
He couldn't stand like once a week or every 2 weeks back and forth. Yeah. He wanted to be more present with his family.
Right.
And incredible Tom Wright, amazing guy. And a few years after that, my younger brother is a Canadian football league fan, and he was at a game. And at that time, Tom was commissioner of the Canadian Football League, and they ran into each other and said, "Hey, Tom, how you doing?" He goes, "You know my brother?" He goes, "Yeah." And he said, "Oh yeah." So he gave his business card to my brother for me to call him.
Wow.
I learned so much. And back in that time, I had not had only one other person who was a leader like that.
Yeah. It just is everything, right?
It's so special. We're going to do a part 2. So we're going to end off with this, because you have been very much involved with women's leadership.
Yes.
In your journey. Can you share some of the journey that you've seen from your lens, especially now after a pandemic? Because you're saying companies are really getting it, but I do a lot of reading and I hear about the Great Resignation that's going on in America. How have you seen the journey of the women in the career in the corporate workplace over your time?
So there are a lot of answers to this. First
That's
thing
why I'm going to end off on this one.
Yeah, you got it. So the Great Resignation is looking at being seen as a bad thing. And I don't choose to see it as 100% a bad thing. Number one, a woman can off-ramp her career for better things if that's what she chooses to do. And if that happens to be taking care of the family at that time, that's all right too. There's also a side of it that says that companies may not be taking care of their people as well as they need to. So I see that side of it. I don't know enough about, obviously, everybody's reasoning for it, but part of me says, if a company's not treating you well, you should leave. You should resign. You should go somewhere else, much like Tom said to you, right? But there's this other side of it that actually gets me kind of juiced up. And I have to tell you, we're seeing more women open businesses than we ever have before.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. We are seeing that women are going back to school. Right now, the largest demographic of people in our country with the highest degrees
Women.
in America,
Just women.
Black women.
Black women,
Yeah.
especially Black women. Yes.
That's right. They hold the most extensive degrees in the country. And so I'm okay with this. I love seeing women stepping into the nonprofit space because they've realized they want to help humanity instead of helping, this corporate beast that they've been working within. So I'm okay with it. I'm okay with a woman off-ramping to be home with her kids. I hate the idea that someone would feel like that's a bad choice. I'm very, very pro woman. And so if a woman chooses to do that, I'm okay with that. But I am loving that we're seeing so many women step into their, entrepreneurial spirit, and they're doing it, and they're opening businesses, and they're getting creative, and they're getting out there and doing things differently. And so for me, I'm not nearly as sort of, I don't know, negative or I don't know even the right word to place on this. People are a bit conspiratorial about it.
Yeah.
And I don't find that. I work with women. I know what they're doing. I'm very connected. Every day I'm in some kind of different training and coaching, and I've got my finger on the pulse of women. And I actually think it's a better thing than what the press wants to tell you.
I think we'll have to have you back and give some tips for women, because again, your evaluated experience, and like you say, every day you're speaking with them, and it's so better to get from the front line, so to speak.
Yeah,
that perspective is amazing.
I love it.
This is good. There's like so many questions going on in my alleged mind here right now. Here's something actually I want to just talk about quickly. I was listening to a program on NPR today, and they were talking about America is the only country in the world that does not give paid parental leave.
Aren't we proud?
Has that ever come up in any of the conversations you've had over the years with women?
Always.
And what are your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, you're talking to a raging feminist here. And I do believe that we absolutely need to destroy the patriarchy. We need equity. We need equality. We need people to be valued. We need unity, right? And as long as we have these really strange beliefs on high in our government saying that it's not important, I think we're always going to be sort of stuck with these really hurtful, because what happens is that people drop out of the workforce because they have to be with their child, and having a child should not send you into joblessness, homelessness, into financial peril. And that is what this does. And by the way, it should be for both parents. It should not just be for the mother. It should be for both parents. And so it's really, really sad that this country seems to care so very little about people. This is what got me into politics, is that I care so much about people. And this country cares, unfortunately, about money more than it does people. And that's a hard thing to live with.
I'm in the same. We're in North America. As I tell people, we're in a capitalistic democracy.
Yeah. And that's what I wish we could get to. That's exactly what I wish we could get to, is sort of a socialized capitalism, something that is a wonderful mix of both. I'm
hybrid.
Not down with capital. I'm not down on capitalism. I make my money through these really extraordinary companies, right? So I'm not down on it, but I'm really, really up on people. And when I see the imbalance, it spurred me to get involved in politics and start to lead on a big level.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, folks, we're going to stop here because there's going to be a part 2. There's a whole other massive stuff that Jen could share about. But what I'm going to do as we close here is I'm going to put up her website again. You can take a look at it. I'm going to put her social media in some of her social media information up at the same time. Jen, this has been an epic conversation.
Yeah.
This has been fantastic. You know, there's just keynote speaker, trainer. We haven't talked about strategists. We haven't even talked about hosting podcasts. But there's, you know, you're taking another look at the website. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this, it's, you know, it's jenbuckspeaks.com, jenbuckspeaks.com. And everything you want to know about Jen is all on this page. And it is so wonderful. And, my life is better because I know this wonderful person. It's so wonderful. Someone who stretches you in a good way, and always, you know, and we haven't got the part of you doing advocacy for like your nonprofits. I haven't got to any of that stuff yet, but I definitely want you to get an opportunity to share about that, because that's a wonderful side, because we don't see enough people, and I'm saying this respectfully, of your stature doing that. So it's really, it's a real happy thing. So website address is there. Facebook is there. And if you want to catch her on Instagram, she's there. She's also on Clubhouse. She's on Wisdom. I mean, she's Googleicious. Let me put it that way. She's Googleicious.
Googleicious. That's right.
Do you have any final words you'd like to share with our audience at all? Anything from your heart that you'd like to share with us?
I just think that it's really important that we all take care of each other right now. Politically, we've got some stuff happening here. We just had a big election night.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the division continues. And while I have opinions, you have opinions, everybody has opinions, I think we've forgotten that we have each other is really what we have. And that is what drives me. That's why I'm a speaker. That's why I did all the things I've ever done, is because I truly love people. And I just think we need to get back to that. I'm afraid of where all this division is taking us. And when I say I'm afraid, I really, truly mean I have fear around that, because we are what we've got. And I just really need us to get back to that and love one another and take care of one another. So I think that that's what matters most to me.
I'll just piggyback on what Jen has said. Let's start with things that we have in common instead of what the things we don't have in common. Good relationships, the foundation, are things that you have in common. Then if you have disagreements, yes, I disagree, but I respect you still.
Yes.
What happened to those words?
Yeah. I miss it all. I miss how easy it used to be. And I understand the fight, because listen, I'm in the fight. I'm politically connected. I'm socially connected to moving the needle on racial inequality and things like that. I'm very actively involved, but we can't get lazy on our activism and just stop being friends with people because they feel differently. We can't lose our humanity because we have different opinions. We've got to use that influence and relationship to help move the needle.
Let's make our differences make us better, not make us worse.
Yes. Yes.
On that note, thank you again. Looking forward to having you back again. And I just want to say thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing me with your audience.
It ain't done yet. Part 1. All right. Take care, Jen. All right, everybody. What an epic conversation. And you know, this was one of these conversations we could have won for 3 or 4 hours, but you know what? You're watching and listening. You have a life. Jen has a life. I don't know if I got a life, but this is part of my life. So I just want to say thank you, everyone who watched this live or on the replay or listened to it on the replay. My name is Dr. Vibe. I'm the host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. Again, I host the only online show in the world for dads and fathers. It's sponsored by Dove Men Care, co-sponsored by Dad Central. And I am the board chair for the Global Food and Drink Initiative, which is a multimedia not-for-profit that showcases Blacks in the diaspora that are doing their thing in food, wine, and travel. Again, thanks for watching. I want to say a big shout out. I've finally, I passed just recently 700 YouTube subscribers, which I went, well, I'm humbled because of that. So thank you for all your support and watching, whether you're 1 day, 1 hour, or the 10 years that I've been doing this. It's appreciated, not taken for granted. And I just like to say thank you much. If you want to subscribe and you're up to it, subscribe to me on the Dr. Vibe Show on either Facebook or YouTube, and you'll get notified about epic conversations like this one. As always, I'd like to close off with this. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect, and remember to give yourself grace. God bless, peace be well, keep the faith, and Jen will be back. Good night.